So firstly, a very hearty welcome to all of you. Really nice to see you here. Thanks for joining and thanks for your interest in the topic of artificial intelligence for the education industry. It's something that we at Studium Alliance have been working on hard. Uh, I think we're all learning right now. So if I say we're working hard, it's primarily learning and playing and figuring things out. And then there are some of us that are a little bit ahead of the others, like Dr. Sri. And so we are very privileged to have Dr. Sri with us tonight to share practically, because he's been practically doing stuff in education, in the classroom, experiments, projects across gyms and outside gyms. And so, Dr. Sri, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Willie. Thank you for inviting.
Okay, so I'm going to dive straight into it. My first couple of questions is on the topic of the future. So, like, we're looking at it from a little bit of a futurist angle. So, if we walk into a physical classroom, and yes, I'm sure there will still be physical classrooms in 2030, what will radically feel different? The furniture, layout, whatever. Or do you think there will not be a physical classroom anymore?
Oh, no, I think there definitely will be physical classrooms in 2030. And I think classrooms are an inherent part of education. Although we can always shift to an online mode of education, but I believe from a schooling perspective, a brick and mortar spaces is part of the education rather than just the content delivery and learning. The space is part of the education as well. 2030, well, it's quite a big time duration from now till 2030, considering the rate at which AI is evolving. But I do not believe the radical shift in terms of furnitures and all those things. But I think in terms of function, yes, they'll be more like classrooms as hybrid hubs, basically, where it's kind of part physical, part virtual, collaborative classrooms. There'll be, of course, modular furnitures, but then there'll be a layer of technology on top of that, with technologies like XR and AR integrated onto the walls. AI co-pilots for every student. That'll be kind of like a standard. The timetables will be dynamic and driven by individual learning paces rather than just like a cohort-based, schedule that we have today. So the physical spaces will focus more on the collaboration, not just on the content delivery. That's
Good. All the guests, please just mute yourself. In fact, I'll just hit the mute all button there. I hope I'm not muting you, Sri. Just talk. Let me just make sure you are not muted.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yep, you are still good because you're a co-host. Okay, so question 2. The World Economic Forum projects 170 million jobs created and 92 million displaced. So a net gain of about 78 million. Which educator roles or tasks? So I'm not saying like, okay, educators will be replaced, but certainly I think most of us agree that some tasks will be replaced. So which educator roles or tasks do you see disappearing, and which ones are likely to be new?
Yeah. So I believe educators in this day and age do a lot more than just deliver content, right? So there are a lot of small pieces of tasks that are sometimes repetitive in nature. So I believe those are the ones which will be first kind of phased out rather than just vanish altogether, like paper grading, attendance tracking, for example, or simple basic lesson delivery by reading out from slides, so on and so forth. I think these are some of the roles that will be phasing out. Uh, but on the contrary, there'll be new roles coming in, like learning engineers, right? So they're just approaching learning in a more practical manner. Also, well-being coaches. That is something really, really important. Looking at the human side of teaching and learning, and as well as a huge kind of focus will be on AI ethics and the ethical side of integration of technology in the classroom. So I think the human touch will not vanish, but it will be redefined.
Exactly, yes. So could we ever see an accredited digital tutor with a legal parity to a human teacher? So we have a tutor that is, let's say, in some way officially endorsed and accredited by a ministry or an accreditation body.
Yes, I believe so. And I think it's already starting to happen at some parts of the world. And there are some interesting use cases as well. With the rise of AI agents and agentic AI, I think that is something which can be, from the technology standpoint, can be achievable. But from the ethical standpoint, is something that is still debatable. And that is something for us to see how the technology evolves. I think AI tutors will get micro credentials. But it'll be tied to the learning outcomes and the accuracy and how quickly it can be adaptive, right? So that is very important. Maybe something like ISO style certification, sitting on a blockchain or something like that can be easily deployed. The legal parity might not come immediately, but I think the functional parity in terms of the technology is around the corner.
So maybe just explain a little bit, what do you mean by the difference between legal parity and functional parity? What do you mean by this for us mere mortals to understand?
Yeah, I mean, for example, most of the times it's let's take the example of self-driving cars, right? The
Yeah.
technology is here. There are self-driving cars right now, but we don't see them on the roads a lot because the legal framework is not ready to address those kind of a big shift of change right now. So I think that's going to be the same thing in all cases of AI adoption as well, and specifically where you are dependent on a tutor which is synthetic and not real to impart knowledge to you. So there are a lot of legal ramifications to this. So once the parity is kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? We won't get it unless we try, and once we try, we are definitely going to get it wrong initially. So that is something which is, I mean, that's how technology evolves anyway. So we don't know what we don't know, but we have to try.
Exactly, yes. I mean, personally, I'm very excited and about the potential of AI tutors and personalized, every student having their own tutor, understanding their learning journey, understanding where they are at, and adapting learning support and delivering the right learning content at the right times. I think there's a really big opportunity there. And if we talk about the actual kind of accreditation and legitimization of these tutors, I think there's a big role for educators, a human role, to teach, coach, and supervise and quality assurance these tutors, to make
Yeah.
sure that they are aligned and that they do teach the right things. Okay, so you can go ahead if you have something on it.
No, I was just thinking of a scenario where ChatGPT would reach out to educators to see if they are right.
Interesting, and yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so what are the key AI skills all educators should focus on mastering right now? Because I mean, it's a definite. AI is here, and AI will impact education everywhere. And I think for educators to think, oh, that's the role of the AI specialist in my school or the IT guy, is probably naive. Each one of us as educators have to right now prepare ourselves for AI in our classroom in a good way. So how can AI be our ally? So what skills should we acquire right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, AI is having a massive I mean, traditional shifting of a generation we are going through right now. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So it's more like when the internet first came onto the scene, right? It did a massive shift in terms of functioning of every part of the human society, education included, and that's what AI is doing at the moment as well. So it'll be foolish for us, as you said, to ignore it. So I believe to get on top of it, some of the skills that are extremely important is, of course, prompt engineering. Uh, how to use AI the right way, how not to use AI the wrong way. These are some of the skill sets that we, especially as educators, must learn. Uh, Also, we should be aware a little bit about how the technology itself works, because there are
Yeah.
sometimes biases and there are some hallucinations some of the models create. So it's important for us to know how to detect these biases, and of course, I think on the third hand is the ethical use of generative AI and generative tools. So that is something really important for us to even consider that. Okay, is this does this particular task require me to use AI? And if yes, how can I use it ethically and within the boundaries and the legalities of my scenario? So I believe these are not just technical skills you're learning, but these are literacy skills. These are skills that you need to know to succeed in this post generative AI era. And it was just like how once we learned how to Google and how to Google safely, we are now learning how to use and guide AI meaningfully.
I like that analogy with learning how to Google. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So let's move on to a few more technical questions. Which three AI capabilities are already classroom ready today and making the biggest impact? Which are the things that you are saying, this is what we are dealing with most right now and what's making a big impact? And for probably which part of that answer is, if you're an educator somewhere or an education leader, these are the things that you should bring on right now. They mature technologies, they can add value and help you a lot right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think not just in the teaching and learning, but operationally, AI is having a massive impact in everyday operations of a school. But coming in from the teaching and learning mindset, because we all are educators present here today, um, some of the AI tools that is having a big impact right now inside the classroom, I believe, are for feedback mechanisms. Some of the AI feedback tools, for example, Conquer, and there are so many right now. And the reason why they are so powerful is because and we touched upon this fact a bit earlier, is because of the personalized evaluation of the student. Its ability to do personalization on a large grand scale so quickly and effectively is something that I believe as educators we must use AI, because that's where it makes our life easier as educators, to make sure that every child is or every student is challenged according to their particular you know uh, sometimes mental cognition is something, it's something which is very unique. And as I always used to say, teaching is a very personal job, and one teacher to one student, that relationship will look very different from one teacher to another student. And to make it more personalized is something that AI is having a huge impact. um, Apart from that, of course, there are a lot of tools that are used for planning. For example, magicschool.ai is gaining a huge amount of traction across the globe right now. So these planning co-pilots are popping up, and they're having a massive impact in just making sure that the classroom organizations and coming up with lesson plans, so on and so forth, are becoming easy for the teachers to generate. One other thing that I found out, another tool I would say, which is pretty interesting and has the potential of a massive impact, is a tool called Merlin Mind, and which is basically it turns teacher speech in a day-to-day classroom into live commands. So that's kind of like getting an agentic AI inside the classroom and in real time taking actions of what the teacher is saying, right? So those are some of the tools I believe is going to reshape the next 3 to 4 years. I would say not more than that, because you never know what's coming up in the horizon. But I would say these are the ones which has a massive impact right now in classrooms.
Okay. And then if we look a little bit further, which are the ones that you would say are they maybe not right here yet in terms of maturity and effectiveness, but they are likely to have the biggest impact in the not so far future?
Yeah, I mean, agentic AI is definitely one of them. It's I would say it's already here, but it's in very nascent stage. But the applications of that in education and edtech is something which there's a huge potential for. Where I mean, AI in the classroom is not just to assist, but it acts autonomously and takes those decisions and creates learning pathways and reroutes students' learning journey based on the past. data of the student. So I think agentic AI is definitely uh, one technology we are all going to talk about in the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to have a massive impact. Uh, I believe also on the other side, emotion AI is something that is very important. Detecting and responding to students and their engagement levels in real time, um, learning how the student is behaving, is that consistency in the behavior, or is the student has some issues today, or if the behavior is not following some patterns. Those are small nuances that AI is able to pick up. And so if the emotional side of sentiment analysis is very powerful, which can be used in education. And I guess AI-driven curriculum is also something which can be, we'll see a revolution in that as well, where the curriculum updates itself based on real world changes that's happening outside. Like there's something that major event that happens today and the curriculum has already changed for my classroom tomorrow. So real-time updation of curriculum based on the learner data and global developments is something I believe is coming up.
Yeah. I'd like to add a comment here, though. So it might sound like, on the one hand, there's a dichotomy. On the one hand, we are saying, educators are still needed for the humanness and empathy and emotional connection with the student. And on the other hand, we are saying AI can and probably will play a big role in kind of the student's emotional state and learning motivation and so on. So for me, um, it these two actually will work really well together, because one of the biggest problems of education with massified education is you have one educator in a class of anything from 15 to 30, or in some cases more, and it's so hard for that educator to keep the focus on each learner, keep the observation on each learner. So with an AI ally, let's call it that for now, the AI can detect behavioral patterns, can detect motivational levels, um, and provide the data to the educator, or give a heads up to the educator for the educator to engage with the student and provide the emotional warm support. So these two are not competing with each other. It's really about how do we bring in AI to really help us just be really, really better at this.
Absolutely. I completely agree. It's a partnership rather than a replacement. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so um, most of us probably in this call are using large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini already. And we probably would have experienced already what we are called hallucinations, or errors, the AI just simply not being accurate. So what do you think are some of the guardrails? And maybe first explain the concept of a guardrail, and what are some of the guardrails that we can adopt as the education sector to safeguard us and our students?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the technology is evolving, and I mean AI right now is one of the few technologies that is being adopted while it's being developing, right? So the technology itself is not perfect yet, but it's still massively being used. So when that situation happens, there are scenarios of hallucinations or scenarios where the AI would come up with something which completely does not make sense with what you intended it to give out. So putting guardrails in terms of guardrails could look very different, right? It could be in terms of the policy that you're creating around how to use AI. That might prevent us asking the question which might have the potential of generating an hallucinated output. It could be in the shape of what model you're using, what is the training data that has been used to train the model, and all these kind of stuff can be used. But I believe one way to beat this is to always have a human in the loop, right? So having a human in the loop systems wherein whatever the AI is generating is being vetted by a human kind of negates the hallucination factor to a certain limit. Also, like limiting hallucination prone tasks to brainstorming, right? So if we have a pattern of an AI hallucinating at a particular prompt, let's just not use AI for that, right? So it's one of the easiest way to stop it. And also, I think which is very important is to train our students to verify all the outputs that they're getting from AI, not just to blindly trust them, and they can become like digital detectives. And that is something that we did initially when we had Chat GPT around the corner, almost like a few 3 to 4 years back. Is make our students understand how ChatGPT and these large language models work. So if they understand the technology, they know how the output is being generated at the back end before they see it on the screen. So most of the times they do not use ChatGPT for research purposes now because they know there are biases, there is hallucination, there is lack of updation of information. So all these things can generate responses that might look very pretty, but does not have the meat that is required.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. A similar kind of risk is around student data privacy. And maybe also just another note, I will probably put this in the comments as well, a link to UNESCO's guides on ethics for educators, which I think is a very useful guideline that educators can use. But when we talk about student privacy, how can educators reap the benefits of AI productivity tools like data analysis and automations in communication? I'm talking about, I mean, potentially I can use AI to automate my communications to parents, to help me with data visualizations and normal distribution curves and everything. But it means that I have to upload data. So how do we get the benefits without compromising student data privacy?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question these days, and I believe there is no simple answer to this because the moment we are using any cloud-based AI tools, which most of them are, uh, the data is gone from our control. It's on the cloud, right? So I believe let me put it this way: they can be like 3 different silos of uh, actions that can be taken to minimize the proliferation of data. Would be one thing is local, right? So on-prem, on-device AI is something that is going to really help us mitigate that risk. And I think just last week, Dell announced their line of laptops which have inbuilt AI, and they're planning to use it in remote villages where there is lack of bandwidth and access to internet. And still you can use those models which are preloaded and pre-trained on those devices. I think that is a very good solution for protecting the student data, but also limiting the amount of data that you're sending up. That is a one short way of kind of protecting. But I think the short way of making sure uh, student data is protected is to anonymize the data, strip the data, anonymize the data, and making sure that no student particular, no human particular data or any identifiers are uploaded to the cloud. And that is something that there are third-party tools that are able to do that, which should be utilized right now, in the case where you are anyways going to use cloud services. So I think building consistency and a layer of consent at every step, and a layer of transparency with the end users and the parents and the teachers, all the stakeholders and the students as well, to making sure that, okay, they know where their data is growing. That is really important at this moment.
Yeah. And of course, like the big tech companies like Google and Microsoft, which are big providers of infrastructure to the education sector, they're all building kind of protected clouds, education specific solutions where, at least the way I understand it, is that whatever data you upload and work with within that environment stays within that environment and doesn't break any of the data privacy rules and regulations, specifically the POPI regulations that apply mostly globally.
Yeah, and but on the flip side, it's also about the uh, comfort level of a parent on that system.
Yeah.
Is that foolproof? Is that even being bypassed, or is it hackable? So these concerns are always going to be there. So it's about balancing and going ahead with the technology rather than just finding a solution to just not adopt the technology because of these kind of challenges. But trying to mitigate the risks and yeah, I think there is no two ways about it. We have to use these models using on-prem on our devices. That is the best case scenario. But if not, we just need to be careful and anonymize the data.
You raise a very important point actually there about the importance of keeping your stakeholders engaged and informed, especially parents, uh, because you could be implementing AI tools with the best of intentions, and if your parents are not buying into it and not trusting it, you can quickly end up with a very tough stakeholder engagement situation.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, um, yeah, AI is transforming every society, and at GEMS Education, what we're doing is not just having those sessions with the parents and telling them about AI, but also learning from the parents who are already using AI in their workplace. How are they learning? How are they using AI in their use cases, right?
Yes.
And so it's a partnership, I believe, and parents, students, and teachers all have to be in this together.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so moving on. What is the most overhyped AI trend in education? Something that people believe will be amazing, but it's not really likely to be. That's
I
a
think
tough one because
yeah, it's a tough one. But I believe that over reliance on AI tools that do kind of predictive grading, I think that is something which is a bit overhyped because that it just opens the Pandora's boxes. There'll be biases, there'll be misinformation. It just undervalues the entire human context and it puts it out of the picture. Because when you're grading someone, especially for creative subjects like art and music and those kind of things, you need to be a human to understand from what point of view, what mental space that particular student is coming from. What data you have on paper does not define the student in front of you. So grading by using an AI for these particular subjects, I believe is overhyped, and it still should be a human's job.
got it. Yes. And then maybe on the other side, is there a specific type technology or an advancement in AI that you think is underhyped, where people underestimate how significant it will be in the future of education?
Yeah, I think the neurodiverse learning, I mean, inclusion is one such small branch within education, which is going through a massive uh, update and upgrade for the better, thanks to AI. Tools are tailored for dyslexia, ADHD, and autism, and it uses real time personalization, and it is just so beautiful to see students react to that piece of technology in a way that probably traditional classroom systems are not being able to do. So I think that is one area where AI is going to have a massive impact.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you mentioned this one, and I 100% agree. It is super exciting actually to see what's possible for neurodiverse education. Okay, so let's move on to the next kind of category of questions. It's about the impact that AI is likely to have on education and on educators and on learners. So UNESCO has found that only 11 countries have already embraced government-endorsed K-12 AI curriculum. By the way, the UAE just announced this a couple of weeks ago that they will have a full AI curricula for all grades. So if there are no clear national laws or school-specific policies in place yet, because many of our listeners on this webinar might find themselves in a situation where they in a country where there's just not policies and procedures and laws and regulations in place yet. What would you advise they do? How could they move ahead? Because I mean, they can just choose and say, okay, let's not do anything about AI right now until we have guidance from our Department of Education or Ministry of Education. Or they can move ahead and be pioneers, but what should they do and what should they not do? And how should they navigate this world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were in this position almost 7 years ago when we were piloting our AI curriculum for our students, and this is way before generative AI and ChatGPT. And we were navigating these questions as to like, um, how big is the impact of AI going to be, and do we need to make changes, massive changes in our policies to actually see fruitful adoption? And I believe at the time what we decided was to create a very simple framework of ethical use, and this stems from our existing policies that are there in the school. Policies around ethical teaching and learning, policies around usage of internet, policies around usage of data. So I think the 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 three pillars of any policy, right, especially for AI, wherein we are checking the ethical side of it, we are seeing the equitable side of it, and the effectiveness of it, the three E's, and trying to create a simple drafting a policy around that, and inviting our teachers and students to co-create it, because finally it has to build trust and ownership in any kind of school system. And I believe now it'll probably become a lot easier for schools because of the existing policies that is freely available online for them to just download and modify to their use cases. So I think it's not a question of when, it's a question of how right now, because it anyways has to happen across the education board. And I feel very soon these policies will be obsolete because the technology itself will be will change itself, and we'll probably have
Interesting.
to write new policies.
Yeah. And are you saying that the AI will kind of self-regulate itself in education? Say, if you use me, so let's say ChatGPT says, if you are using me in the context of education, don't use me like this, or don't, or this is what I can help you with, and so on.
Yeah. I think that I'm just waiting for that to happen. I guess, and that's the power of agentic AI. I believe there'll be different version and personas of the same AI that you're using that will just modify itself based on the use case. But yeah, definitely the AI policies are required because that will be your guardrails that you're keeping your enterprise on. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So research suggests that AI has massive potential to slash admin time from teachers' daily tasks, which most educators that I know, I don't think I've ever spoken to any educator that does not complain about all the admin that keeps them
Yeah.
away from their students. So if AI brings that promise that it can slash a lot of our admin time, that's exciting. What would you say to educators? Where are the quick wins in terms of using AI for your personal productivity, and which are the things that they should just stay away from?
Yeah. I guess the easiest to automate would be stuff like attendance taking, right? Even using agents and co-pilots that would automate your calendar reminders, automate your meetings, and also sometimes your formative assessments and grading that could be easily automated. But I believe what can be automated is should not be the questions. Rather, what should not be automated should be what we should be looking at. And I think that's where the human element comes in, like pastoral care, uh, communication with the parents, disciplinary actions and decisions on students. Those things are still needed to be under human control, and it should never be. I believe should never be entrusted on with the AI. So context still needs human, basically.
Great, thank you. I want to move on a little bit to the lens of equity. AI tools often need high-end devices and bandwidth, um, and it has the potential to, on the one hand, widen the digital divide for those who don't have access to the same level of tech infrastructure. What could we do to ensure AI adoption doesn't really have that impact of widening the digital divide, but in fact provides everybody the opportunity to have the best possible learning available wherever they are? Which is, I believe it can, but what do we do to get there?
Yeah, I think access to the closest data center is a very technical challenge. But once there are more data centers and the more kind of geographical, covering the more geography of the earth, access to those AI-based calls would be easier and cheaper. Because right now, those are the two main challenges of AI: is it's expensive and it's sometimes it's not. I mean, it takes time for these calls to happen. Although it might look happening instantaneously, but behind the scenes, it's not that fast. So I think here is where the edtech companies need to really step up their game and start thinking of practical applications of AI rather than just what are the features of their AI, right? So this could include anywhere like low bandwidth applications, right? Or even creating offline first applications, which is easily deployable. Um, AI on the edge devices, like what Dell is doing, right? So having AI built in onto your devices, and maybe something as crazy as SMS based tools, where you do not have internet connectivity, but just have mobile signals. So I think this is where the governments also come in. The public-private partnerships would play a crucial role in getting this, because at the end of the day, you have to subsidize the hardware because the hardware is going to be expensive right now because the technology itself is so nascent. But right now, we need some sort of government pull and push in terms of the subsidies for these kind of technologies to be more homogeneous and more widely deployable and scalable.
Yeah, exactly. What ethical red lines should educators draw when using generative AI with minors? For example, face recognition and predictive grading and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are technologies that have been available for the past decade about biometrics and attendance grading and all these things. But I believe that that is something that we have to be very, very careful of, especially with data that we have of minors and where the data is stored. If it's stored in the cloud, which is crossing your geographical domains, I'm sure you're definitely violating some of the privacy and data protection laws. So I think that is very important. I think one blanket that you can do is no biometric tracking at all, no profiling for kind of discipline and all those kind of stuff. And also, I believe not letting AI assign predictive grades because that is where we have seen that lack of context and transparency has led to a lot of biases that the AI has taken, and I have seen it firsthand in a lot of cases wherein while automating a grading process, which we should not do. But I was just testing out the model. The AI was coming out with references to the model it was trained on and giving particularly lower grades to students who had probably an African American origin or that kind of a profile. So that is clearly a sign of a faulty data set that AI was trained on. And these creep in from time to time, and you never know when this is coming in. So best is to stay away from that and uh, to the fact of biometric profiling. That is something which most of the technologies right now, in even outside the classrooms, even in real life, where biometrics are being used, the way of taking consent needs to be really worked on because we cannot just assume that people have consent for their biometrics to be taken. And I think that's where the legal framework needs to be created more thoroughly.
Yeah, very well. By the way, everybody, I have three more questions for Dr. Sri, and I hope that we will have a few minutes left in the webinar after that. So if you have any questions for Dr. Sri, please post them in the chat. And when we're done with the last three questions, we will address those and on a first come, first served basis. So moving on to a little bit more about you. What was your original aha moment that convinced you that AI belonged inside the classroom, that this is something that will make education much better for the future?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many examples, not just one. One thing that comes to my mind is watching a student with dyslexia using a text to speech AI app to enjoy reading. That was something which kind of made it just filled my heart with joy, looking at how technology is actually able to solve a problem. Also looking at apps like Seeing AI, which helped blind people just live the world and see what's in front of them just by using the camera on their phone. Uh, and that is something which is so heartening to see that, okay, some students can actually take inspiration of these projects. And I remember one of the students it was from the first cohort of our AI batch, and she ended up creating a device which helps a blind person and a deaf and mute person communicate, because it is almost impossible for a blind and a deaf and mute to communicate with each other, because one can't see the sign language and one can't hear. She made a device which can decipher sign language and convert it into speech for the blind to for the deaf and mute and the blind to communicate with each other. So that was very beautiful to see how learning and understanding of technology can actually relate with problems in your society. So one thing that we also do in our schools, eh, for every project-based learning, we have a problem-based activity, right? So we first find the problem, curate and define the problem, and then start solving the problem. So sometimes finding the problem is more important than finding the solution. And I think AI is something that really helps us achieve some radical solutions.
Yes, thank you for that. Describe one of your AI projects, and I know that you've done a lot of projects in AI that maybe did not work out well or didn't have the results you were hoping for. Just describe and tell us what you learned from it that others can learn from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are so many, and I think all AI projects starts with failure, because that's how it is supposed to be, because you reiterate and take in data. So one of the first projects that we did was create a chatbot, which was kind of like a digital version of our mascot. We called it Digital Diego. Uh, and it was basically a writing assistant and a booking assistant all in one together. And this is much before generative AI and the world of AI agents. And we deployed it, and then it was working very good, but it was not effective enough in terms of transitioning to or depending on that particular tool, uh, primarily because the lack of teacher training. We skipped the training part of it and we just deployed it to ask the users to use it. So I think that is something that we learned, that any kind of AI advancement in education should be led by pedagogy first, and not just for the novelty sake of it.
Very wise. Thank you. Is there a book or a podcast or a specific mentor or influencer in AI that you would recommend, somebody that influences you and that you learn from a lot, that you would recommend others to follow?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. In terms of AI books, I believe many of them are very similar to each other from what I've read. But one book that has always stayed with me, it's got nothing to do with AI, but it's about curiosity and lifelong learning, and also creating a future-proof mindset that will help you adopt in the world which is led by AI. And that's a book called Tribe of Mentors by Tim Ferriss, and it's a very famous book. It's not something a hidden gem, but I
Yeah,
believe that is something every one of us should read, and I'm sure we will get inspired at least by one chapter from that book, and try to apply it in our life. Also, one book that I found really interesting was a very different kind of book. It was called Weapons of Math Destruction, MATH, Math Destruction, and
okay.
it was about how we are overly relying on big data, and we are using data to make decisions. But at the back end of it, there are so many problems that come with big data, and how it threatens the democracy, and it increases the inequality. That is something which is really an interesting read for me, and seeing the other side of how big data can be dangerous.
Great. Those are very useful recommendations. Thank you. Okay, so you are not off the hook yet because I see we have some amazing questions here and not easy questions.
Yeah.
Let's start with Murali. By the way, just want to say, I just saw a pop up here to say that we have less than 2% drop off through the duration of the webinar, which is fantastic. It means that we have amazing content. People are curious and interested, and you are teaching as well. Thank you, Dr. Sri. And thank you for all of you staying engaged and learning with us. All right, so Muradi asks, can AI be utilized to assess children's well-being during their learning process?
Yes, it can be, but that would require a lot of policies that need to be put in place to collect that data, right? Because AI is nothing but a program that works on data, and collecting that data needs to be very, very. It should be a process which should be very practical and transparent. Um, Unfortunately, some of the student well-being AI apps that are available rely on data that is personal to the student in terms of facial biometric, sometimes even voice data. So if we have consent in terms of parental consent, the school is happy to go ahead with it. If the government allows you to do it, then yes, it can be utilized to assess children's well-being. There are some other tools that can be used in terms of what data is being collected in the classroom, but I believe we still need a couple of years more to see that used effectively, because once these privacy and ethical questions are out of the way, the technology is there to do that.
Thank you. Then we have, I think, one from an anonymous iPhone user that says, to what extent can AI effectively replace human teachers in the classroom?
I do not think AI can replace teachers, although the technology can replace teachers in terms of what the teacher does. But a teacher does more than than just teaching, right? So that the human element of teaching is something that uh, AI might be able to replace, but not effectively replace.
Yeah. By the way, I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago for those who are interested in this specific question. And the title of the article basically suggests that AI can potentially replace educators. So it's a little bit of a provocative title, but it doesn't necessarily come fully to that conclusion. But the article breaks down step by step all of the typical things that we would say, oh, but AI cannot do this. So what we do in the article, we look at each one of these one by one and to say, is it really true that AI can or cannot do this? And how far is AI from that? And if AI can, how do we control that? So it's a little bit of a more sober look at the question of can and will AI replace educators. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you will find the article there. You just scroll through my content and my post. Then we have Imen asking, how do we ensure AI enhances critical thinking rather than just automating learning? The big question that we are all worried about, I think.
No, I think if AI is being used effectively, I think it enhances critical thinking and enhances structured way of tackling a problem, and also sometimes lateral thinking, because AI surprises you sometimes with the solutions that it gives you, and it starts you on a journey wherein you thought that, oh, I never thought of it this way. I think uh, it is all dependent on how you're using AI, and also giving the freedom to the students to use the AI in a way that helps them with their research work, or coming up with hypothetical situations that they might solve with AI, and just using AI in day-to-day life is and also which AI is being used. That is also very important. So all of these questions, once we answer together, I think what I have seen personally from the classrooms that I've been to is definitely it enhances critical thinking and problem solving, rather than just students being dependent on AI to just give them an answer to a question.
Yeah. And it all depends on how we use it at the end, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Then another one from Murali. What proportion of students leverage AI for genuine learning as opposed to mere information retrieval?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I recently saw an article where a student was penalized for using AI, and the student, went ahead and placed a legal lawsuit against the teacher because the teacher used AI to create the questions. And it's also about how you're utilizing AI. And to be honest, right now, it's very difficult to give an answer right now because we have not collected probably that data yet. We are so early in this process of using generative AI in the classroom. But I believe information retrieval was and will be always something that is democratized. You cannot stop that, and you should not stop that. Uh, and using AI for getting information is a very skillful task. It's not
Yeah.
just about writing a prompt on ChatGPT and you get information because it could be completely false. So how to generate authentic information from AI is a skill set that probably they need to learn, and they might increase their creative skills and thinking skills along the way. So I would say what proportions are using AI for genuine learning? Uh, I would say probably all of them, because even mere information retrieval in this day and age is a part of the learning process, right? So I think it's probably a very difficult question to answer right now because we just don't have the data.
Yeah. Thank you. Sucharita, I hope I say your name right. She asks, will AI agents be able to completely replace educators? How will it impact student behavior? Is it safe to delegate the entire teaching learning process to AI agents?
Yeah, I do not think, I mean, technology, if they think from the technology standpoint, can AI agents be replaced to complete humans? I mean, given the time and if we give enough data to an AI agent, it can effectively replace a teacher and an educator in terms of what the educator does in the classroom. But I think the impact of that to the student would be detrimental because they will just, get disconnected from that humanness of the education part of it. So we definitely should rethink about to what extent we should rely on AI agent and agentic AI in the coming future. Um, so I believe it's not a question of if it's safe to delegate the entire teaching learning process. We need to ask why do we even need to do that, right? Once we answer that why, then I think that will be clear that we should not delegate the learning process to AI agents by themselves. So it's a partnership. The human teacher needs to be involved. Yes, the way the teaching delivery, the learning mechanism, the assessment mechanism is being done, that can be complemented and supplemented with the help of AI agents, but not entirely relying on them.
Agreed, yes. Sarah Singh says, do you think existing AI plagiarism detectors are effective? Can you suggest a good AI plagiarism detector for visual communication material?
I will not answer that question because that's a question that comes up every day, to be honest. Uh, from a technology standpoint of view, do AI plagiarism detectors work? It depends on which you're using, and 99% of them out there do not work. And it's very easy, even if they work, to fool them. So the technology is changing every day. So if a tool is working today, it might not be as effective tomorrow, and there'll be another tool that can be used to bypass that system. There are so many humanizer tools that can bypass a plagiarism tool, and there are other plagiarism tools that can bypass a humanizer tool, right?
Yeah.
So there is not one single good AI plagiarism detector out there right now that we can trust.
Thank you. But yeah, I think it's very important that we keep on playing with these tools and
Yeah.
keep on striving for building a set of tools around us that can help us be effective as educators in many ways, including preventing plagiarism.
Yeah.
Toby asks, is it possible to share a link of one of the good books on AI here? Yes. Toby, I think what we will do, just because I don't want Dr. Sri to try and multitask and type everything right now, but what we'll do is the chat will stay open and we will share some links with you. And also we will probably send you some follow-up email after this as well with some useful information and documents. Mina asks, could you suggest some AI tools used in classroom teaching? Oh, wow. There's a big list of that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
We can put it in the chat as well later on. We can
yeah,
send you the link.
okay. So we will also
Yeah.
share some useful stuff in the chat.
Yeah. Thank you.
Murali, can AI effectively integrate gaming and education to create engaging learning experiences for children in the current environment?
Very good question, Murli. And that is something that I had a big discussion with last week with the creator of Minecraft from Microsoft. And that's what they're trying to do as well, very effectively. AI I mean, first we have to see what games do and what games are and why do children love games, right? So once we know that why, we can definitely enhance that why with the help of AI and just replace it in different parts of a gamified education curriculum. So basically, it's just about creating opportunities for students to have that competition factor amongst themselves and amongst their peers, and also that achievement factor, which gives them that dopamine hit, I would say, and also the fact that students are kind of the enjoyment factor is not such a big factor, but I believe it is, because once students enjoy the process of what they're doing on a screen, that translates to the effectiveness of the content that is being delivered. And if they are enjoying it in the form of a game, then why not?
Okay. Mina asks, to what extent should AI systems be allowed to make autonomous decisions, particularly in high stakes areas like healthcare, law enforcement, or warfare, where accountability and moral judgment are crucial?
I mean, as long as the final decision is made by the human, let it take 99% of the decisions, but that 1% needs to be the controlling person. The decision making power should be left with the human, where the AI is giving them enough supporting evidence to make an informed decision, but still the final decision is made by the human. Because, as you rightly said, if it's a high stake area, then we do not want the AI to make a mistake, because then we do not know who is liable for that mistake, right? So
Yeah.
as long as there's a human element in it, it should be fine.
Okay, so there's a couple of more questions, but before we go on with the last questions, we kind of at the end of our time. So I just want to officially say thank you to Dr. Sri for so generously agreeing to share your wisdom and experience with us. It's been truly informative and inspiring. And if I look at the number of participants still in, we still kept almost everybody to the last minute. So well done. And this has been really great information. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And Sri, if you don't mind, we will continue answering a couple of questions that are still there.
Sure, happy to.
So those who have the next meeting or dinner to run to, thank you and goodbye, but you're welcome to stay on for a couple more minutes for a few more questions. A question from Saru. What is your thought about who should take authorship rights when using AI? That's a very interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a debate even today as well. And I believe AI is not an entity, it's just a tool. So probably the person who is using the AI, who's writing the prompt, you could argue that that person would have the authorship rights. But yeah, it's a gray area right now. Also, there's a difference between in terms of plagiarism as well in the classroom, right? AI generated content is not necessarily a plagiarized content, right? Because if you see how did you get that content, maybe you put in a very smart prompt that led to that content, but that prompt is your genuine prompt. That's your IP. So there has to be a distinction made between plagiarism and AI generated. And in terms of who should take the authorship rights, probably the person who is using the AI.
Interesting. Yeah, this is quite a controversial
Yeah,
topic, especially in the art and creative industries right now.
absolutely.
Roxanne, thank you for that question. Does AI have an environmental impact? I read something about a huge impact, but not sure if I should feel guilty about using it. Very good question, Roxanne.
Very interesting. Yeah, because there have been some conflicting reports online about this. But the fact of the matter is, yes, there is an impact, because the training that happens for these models are done on supercomputers for weeks and months, which probably take a huge amount of energy. I read somewhere that ChatGPT 3, which was an older model, took as much electricity as a US household would use for 100 years. That is just to compare the amount of energy that is being used. But people are saying that, okay, if I write thank you to ChatGPT, will that use a lot of energy? Well, I do not know. I mean, uh, do you need to be guilty about using AI? Well, that's a very hypothetical scenario, and I think that is something we should all put as a use case to our students to ponder upon. It might give rise to a nice debate activity in the classroom. For me to answer that question, I don't know, to be honest, because uh, there are a lot of other things that are consuming a lot of other energies, and which are probably not effective or giving us outputs that is transforming the world in a way that AI is at the moment. So if you're comparing that, I would say, uh, I mean, we have to use AI. If we have to use AI, we are not going to stop using it just because of consciousness of the impact that it is creating right now, because the pro weight the cons, I would believe, but we never know. In the long run, I may be wrong.
What I would say is, as responsible citizens, we should put pressure on our governments to move faster towards renewable energies.
Yeah,
And so if we are setting up large AI supercomputers, let's put pressure on our governments to use renewable energy for that, because it does consume a lot of energy.
yeah. I think I made a series around it, and I believe the one of the solutions for this is to go nuclear. Uh, I think that's one of the cleanest source of energy, and nuclear powered AI would solve this challenge, and that's going to be the next phase of our probably industrial revolution that's going to happen.
Thank you. Namisha asks, can we utilize AI for differently abled students who have learning difficulties? You did answer that one, but maybe a quick follow-on comment on that.
Yeah, I think we've been using it for so long, right? It's right in front of our in plain sight, like speech to text apps, text to speech apps, translation apps, accessibility apps across all the range of devices that we use, chat bots that we use for our as buddies for our students. All of these are optimized to be supporting our differently abled friends. So I believe, yes, we are already using it. It's already there in front of us.
Thank you. Hema asks, how much can we trust AI, since there will always be bias of the trainers? Try as we might to eliminate them, given that now most prefer to use ChatGPT for one answer instead of Google for multiple search results.
Yeah, good question. How much can we trust AI? I think that should be a next book that we should all write. Uh, I believe the moment where we have to trust something, we should just not use AI, because we can use AI to make an informed decision, but the decision should be ours after we have fact checked that what the AI has given us is true or it's in the right direction. To completely blindly put our faith on AI would be foolish to do, because of the fact that AI depends on data, and we do not know what all data it has been trained on, because these large language models have all sorts of data. They have good data, they have bad data, they have clean data, they have unclean data. So there is going to be bias, there is going to be these hallucinations. So uh, if it's as we said before, if it's something that we need to trust on, it's best to make sure that we make a more educated judgment and an educated guess based on what the AI has given us, rather than just copy pasting what ChatGPT gives us out.
And a very good tip as well. So if you do ask ChatGPT something that is really important, that might have quite significant impact, if the answer that it gives you might have quite a big impact in terms of decisions and so on, a good tip is to ask Gemini the same thing and
Yeah.
compare the answers. That always gives you a very good um, checkpoint to see what the different answers are.
And also one more tool that I use for more research based answer-based question is perplexity, because it's a tool that is made to do these research, and I find it giving a lot more authentic answers to what
Yeah,
I'm searching for.
exactly. Yeah. Love is asking, as educators, where can we learn about effective prompting to guide our learner to maximize AI for learning? A great question, Love. So, on the one hand, there are, if you go to YouTube, there are many videos available that will teach you how to prompt properly and good prompting techniques. Uh, I will also use the opportunity to answer that question with a little promo.
Yeah.
Studium, we developed an AI for educators curriculum. It is an academic grade curriculum, an 8-week program that we typically deliver together with academic partners in different countries. In the UAE, we have University of Dubai. In Saudi, we have Imam Abdul Rahman and KVPM. In Kenya, we have with Mamangina and so on. And so you can just enroll in that program. That's a formal AI for Educators learning journey that will also earn you a mastery certificate from our education partners. We will share that on the follow-up email and communications as well. Let's see. Amar Sheikh, it's been observed that children nowadays copy compositions from ChatGPT and are thus able to submit good pieces of writing. Wait, did I? Yep, good. Submit good pieces of writing, but they are definitely learning when copying. Though creativity is not developed. However, should we not encourage the students to use AI so that they are prepared for this era?
Yeah, I'm happy that he's taken this positive approach, and I believe we have to be right. We have to be optimistic, but cautiously optimistic around the usage of AI. And I believe we, it's about time we should change the way we assess our students, right? Uh, it's not about them using AI or not AI to pass a test or to write a big piece of composition or write an essay. Maybe try and come up with AI proof methods of students being assessed, right? So that means, like, instead of writing a piece of essay on a piece of paper, come in front of the class and verbally say something like that, right? So which reduces that with chance of them using AI. But yes, even using AI to create a piece of content has got a certain amount of education and learning aspect connected to it. Uh, Also, because when the fact that IB had addressed this question before, they said that yes, if the student is answering a question with the help of an AI generated answer, they have to include the piece of prompt that gave that piece of answer, so we can assess the prompt as well. So it all depends on what you're gaining and what you're looking to get out of this. So I like the fact that you mentioned that students are learning while they're using AI as well. So yes, that's very true.
Susharita says, in an AI-driven world, will libraries become obsolete? How do we retain the love for reading books that are essential for developing critical thinking skills, building vocabulary, and enhancing problem-solving skills? Weaning students away from high-tech gadgets and making them read books. How do we stop the over-dependence on high-tech gadgets and AI?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and I believe that these students nowadays are forgetting how to read. Sometimes they are forgetting how to write a good piece of poetry. They are just so much overly dependent on technology. Uh, but on the flip side, I can also say that that is the world they're going to live in anyways, right? So it is the world that is waiting for them outside once they are coming out of school. So how can we stop that over dependence on high tech gadgets? Well, we can't, because the moment we try stopping them in school, they will do it at home, either ways. So it's not about stopping them. It's about how do they use those high tech gadgets in a way that makes it more productive for them to learn these essential skills. So maybe come up with an AI tool that helps them understand how to read better, or analyzes their reading skills and give them strategies on how to read better, probably. So yeah, it's about living in a world where we know we are subjected to these limitations, but then how to make the best use case out of
That's exactly it. Yes. Um, looks like these are the last questions. Pauline is asking, can we all get the resources, please? Okay, so just to make sure that you all have access to the resources, number one is to make sure that I think most of you signed up on LinkedIn. So if you're on LinkedIn, make sure that you follow Studium Alliance and follow me as well. I will post in the comments on the where we advertise the webinar. In the comments of the webinar, we will put the link with all the information that you are asking for and that we agreed to share, including the recording of the webinar and also the link to the AI for Educators course if you're interested in that. Alternatively, I will also try, I'm not sure if it depends on how you enrolled. If I have access to your profile and I can send you a message, I can follow up on that as well. So please, if you are interested in the next seminars, because we are running more seminars, webinars like this with interesting topics, follow Studium Alliance and follow me, and we will notify you of the upcoming webinars as well.
Yeah, and feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions beyond the call today, so please feel free to drop them in over there.
Let me quickly, I'm quickly going to drop Sree's LinkedIn linked on here as well. You can get his link directly in the chat here. So there's his LinkedIn link, so you can follow him directly there as well. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you again, Dr. Sree. This was really, really interesting.
This was fun. Yeah, thank you, Willie. It was very great topics, great questions, covering the length and breadth of all the curiosity that we have in today's classroom. So yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.